First edition published by I2I LLC 2024. Copyright 2024 by Win Valentine, all rights reserved. No part of this publication may be reproduced, stored or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic, mechanical, photocopying, recording, scanning, or otherwise without written permission from the publisher. It is illegal to copy this book, post it to a website, or distribute it by any other means without permission. This novel is entirely a work of fiction. The names, characters, and incidents portrayed in it are the work of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, events or localities is entirely coincidental. Win Valentine asserts the moral right to be identified as the author of this work. Designations used by companies to distinguish their products are often claimed as trademarks. All brand names and product names used in this book and on its cover are trade names, service marks, trademarks, and registered trademarks of their respective owners. The publishers in the book are not associated with any product or vendor mentioned in this book. None of the companies referenced within the book have endorsed the book. Chapter 1: Arrival at Nysiros Island. As the ferry docked at Nysiros Island, Lyra stepped onto the weathered wooden planks, a blend of excitement and trepidation coursing through her veins like a potent elixir. The sun glinted off the cerulean waves, casting shimmering patterns on the dock, but the ancient tales of the sea lingered in her mind like a haunting melody she couldn't shake off. She inhaled deeply, the salty breeze filling her lungs and carrying with it the faint scent of pine and wildflowers from the island's interior. The bustling port of Nysiros town surrounded her, whitewashed buildings with vibrant blue doors and windows gleaming under the Mediterranean sun. Fishermen mended their nets, their laughter echoing against the stone walls, while children chased each other along the shore, their joyous shouts blending with the cries of seagulls overhead. Yet, amidst the vibrant landscape, Lyra felt a subtle undercurrent of foreboding, as if the island itself was whispering secrets too faint to decipher. Setting up her research equipment in the state-of-the-art Aegean Marine Research Center, Lyra couldn't ignore the weight of expectations, her own and those imposed upon her by a competitive academic world that had often left her feeling isolated and adrift. She meticulously arranged her instruments, each piece a testament to her unyielding determination to uncover the secrets of cephalopod behavior. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the exhilaration of new discoveries awaiting her beneath the waves. This project was her chance to prove herself, to silence the insidious whispers of doubt that had followed her like a shadow since her former partner's betrayal. The sterile hum of the laboratory equipment filled the air, a stark contrast to the wild symphony of the island outside. She paused, her fingers tracing the smooth surface of a high-tech microscope, a silent promise to the mysteries she was determined to unveil. The scent of antiseptic and the faint humidity from the nearby aquariums grounded her in the familiar, even as the unknown beckoned. The crashing waves outside provided a rhythmic backdrop to her thoughts, each surge a reminder of the ocean's relentless power and the mysteries it concealed. The sound was both soothing and unsettling, echoing the legends of sea creatures that had been passed down through generations, tales that were as much a part of the island as its volcanic soil. Lyra paused, gazing out the window at the pristine beaches and rugged cliffs. The island's beauty was undeniable, yet it held an eerie allure, as if concealing secrets just beneath its surface, waiting to be unearthed. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows that danced and shifted with the swaying of the trees, their leaves rustling like whispered secrets. She could almost feel the island's heartbeat, a rhythm that resonated with the ancient tales and the modern quest for knowledge. The distant cry of a seagull punctuated the air, a haunting melody that seemed to call her towards the sea. As she finished setting up, an old resident approached her, his weathered face creased with lines that spoke of a lifetime on the sea. His eyes, as blue as the Aegean, held a depth of knowledge that couldn't be quantified by science alone. The scent of brine and pipe tobacco clung to him, a tangible link to the island's maritime history. His hands, gnarled and strong from years of labor, rested on a worn wooden cane. "Calamera, young lady," he greeted, his voice as rough as the waves crashing against the shore. "You're here for the sea, aren't you?" I can see it in your eyes. Lyra nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. Yes, I'm studying marine life. Specifically, cephalopod behavior, she explained, her scientific curiosity piqued by the old man's enigmatic demeanor. She leaned against the counter, her eyes scanning the array of scientific instruments before her. Each piece seemed to hold a promise of discovery, a key to unlocking the ocean's secrets. The old man's presence was a stark contrast to the sterile environment of the lab, a living embodiment of the island's rich history and lore. The old man's eyes narrowed, his gaze shifting to the horizon as if he could see beyond the visible spectrum. Be careful out there, young one. The sea holds many mysteries, some deeper and darker than you can imagine. He leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Legends speak of creatures, ancient beings that guard these waters, that rise from the depths when the time is right. His gnarled fingers traced patterns on the countertop, as if sketching the shapes of unseen creatures. His voice held a resonance that seemed to echo through time, carrying with it the weight of generations. Some say they're not just tales, but truths hidden beneath the waves, waiting for the right eyes to see them. Lyra's scientific skepticism bristled at the mention of mythical creatures, yet a part of her was undeniably intrigued. She could feel the tug of the unknown, the allure of the inexplicable. I'm here to study what's real, she replied, her voice firm with conviction. What can be quantified and observed? Her fingers tapped lightly on the counter, a subconscious echo of her internal debate. The dichotomy between her rational mind and the island's mystical undercurrents created a tension that was both exhilarating and unsettling. The old man's words seemed to linger in the air, challenging her preconceived notions and inviting her to consider the unseen. The old man chuckled, a sound like gravel shifting underfoot. Reality is a strange thing, young one. Sometimes it's not what we see, but what we feel. What we know in our hearts to be true. He tapped his chest, his eyes never leaving hers. His gaze held a depth that seemed to reach back through generations, a living link to the island's storied past. The weight of his words lingered in the air, a challenge to her scientific perspective that she couldn't easily dismiss. The sea has its own language, its own truths. Listen closely, and you might hear them. Lyra watched him walk away, his words lingering in her mind like the remnants of a dream. She turned back to the window, her eyes drawn to the deep blue sea. For a moment, she felt a tug, a connection to the water that she couldn't explain. It was as if the ocean itself was alive, watching her, waiting. Expectant. The setting sun cast a golden glow over the waves, painting a picture of serenity that belied the mysteries hidden beneath the surface. The island seemed to breathe around her, its secrets whispering on the wind, beckoning her to delve deeper into its enigmatic heart. She shook her head, dismissing the thought as a product of her overactive imagination, a side effect of the island's intoxicating atmosphere. Yet, as she returned to her work, she couldn't shake the feeling that Nysiros Island held more than just scientific discoveries. There was a sense of the unknown, a hint of the mystical that beckoned her, pulling her deeper into the island's enigmatic embrace. And despite her skepticism, she found herself drawn to the edge of the known, eager to dive into the depths of the unexplained. The flickering lights of the laboratory instruments seemed to mirror the dance of the waves outside, a silent invitation to explore the mysteries that lay hidden beneath the surface.